Hi, my name's Paul Mansell, and what an absolute pleasure it is to have been asked by Reed to do a little video about myself for Solo Ukulele Group. So I thought before I sort of start talking about myself, I'll play you a little something. So I was relatively late to music. I started playing the guitar when I was about 16, which I guess is quite late in relative terms. And I studied classical guitar then at school for about 2.5 years. I think my main influences then, and probably still now, were firstly my teacher. I had a wonderful teacher called Kevin Mayhew Ltd, who was an amazing teacher and amazing player as well, and gave me a really good grounding in classical guitar. I think at the time, and still my main influence, because guitar-wise, what I listened to then, Stuart Adamson from Big Country was a really big influence. Probably it was his playing that made me pick up a guitar. And Johnny Marr from the Smiths as well. And I still listen to both of those players, and I'm still amazed by how wonderful they are. After school, I went to university, did a business degree, and then had a normal job like we do. Throughout all of this time, I was playing in several bands, playing up and down the country, headlined at Rock Garden, had some talks with EMI, but nothing really ever came of it, and it was always really just a hobby. After that, I was then in a couple of other bands, put out a record with a band called the Electroscopes, and it was mainly really just a hobby. After having a normal job, I then had my own business for about 10 years. I ran an events company, and after I sold that, I didn't really know what to do, but I had somewhere in the back of my head that music was still a calling. So I was lucky that I had a little bit of time. So I took a year out and did a diploma, the VCM diploma, Victoria College of Music, on the ukulele. I was actually really late coming to the ukulele. It was only when I sort of started thinking about potentially teaching classical guitar, because I was very lucky, I'd done the grades anyway, that a friend of mine said, "Have you ever played a ukulele?" And this isn't that many years ago. I was certainly over 40. I said, "No, I haven't." So I bought a really cheap Macalo, I think it was £30 off of the internet, and straight away I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. Immediately started looking into what exams you could take, and fell upon VCM, and took the diploma, passed it with I think 95%, which I was really pleased with. And from then, that for me, it kind of, I felt like it legitimised me as a player a little bit. And from then on, I started teaching ukulele, and that went really well. Teach guitar as well, mainly ukulele. I have about, well, COVID's been quite bad at the moment, but I still have about 45 students, and I teach them all from my studio here. Not long after I'd started teaching ukulele, I sort of started messing around playing classical pieces on the ukulele, pieces that I'd played on the guitar originally. I still remember the very first piece. tiny little piece called Canario, and I just started playing it and suddenly thought, oh wow, there's all this stuff that exists for guitar that can be worked out on ukulele. Started looking into it more, and of course there were already a couple of fantastic books out. Tony Mizen's book, From Lute to Uke, was a real inspiration at the time. John King's work as well. So I started transcribing all of this stuff from classical guitar to ukulele, mainly for my own use and to use with students. And after I'd got about a book's worth, I thought, yeah, I'm really happy with that. And I initially didn't plan to do anything with it. And then I kind of thought, you know what, I think I'll send it to a few publishers and see what happens. Not really expecting much to happen. I sent it to 3 publishers, and lo and behold, 2 of them came back straight away and said, yeah, we're really interested, which, well, just made me very, very happy. So after a few sort of meetings and that, I settled on Kevin Mayhew as a publisher. And one of the reasons that I sort of decided to go with Kevin Mayhew, firstly, they were happy to give me a deal to do a CD as well, which was fantastic. That was very, very exciting. They also have a great in-house studio and record producer. So firstly it was that, and then I did my first book, which I have here, which is Classical Ukulele. So this is 20 classical pieces, all arranged for high or low G ukulele. Really, really proud of this book. It was so exciting to do my first book. And that's been going really, really well and still sells pretty well, to be honest. After that, the second book that I did, which was a bit of a deviation really, Kevin Mayhew asked me to do a tutorial book. So we did Ukulele School, and why it was quite different was it's all original songs. So obviously I've been writing songs when I was in bands and that, but I had to go back to that and came up with 10 original songs that are in this book, and it's aimed at really young children and teachers who are teaching it. It's a great book, really good fun, lays things out really, really simply. After that, funnily enough, I'd over the internet become friends with Tony Mizen, who did From Lute to Uke, and we got chatting. And he said to me, you know, if you ever want to work together, let's do that. And so we came up with this cunning plan to do a book of ukulele duets, which was the last book that I put out. So this is, I think it's 22 duets, mainly classical, but there's a couple of modern pieces that I wrote 2 and Tony wrote 2. And we worked on this together. Really, really proud of this book, because I don't think there's much else like it out there. I've had the pleasure of doing a concert with Tony as well, down at the Uke Room. We were booked to headline the Isle of Wight Ukulele Festival in March, Tony and I was so looking forward to that, but unfortunately due to COVID that has now been scrapped, I'm afraid, so that won't be happening, but hopefully at some stage in the future that will happen. I had, a few years ago, I was the first player ever to be featured on the front of BMG, which is Banjo, Mandolin and Guitar Magazine. It's the oldest magazine for fretted instruments in the world, and for some reason, I don't know why, but they decided to put me on the cover, so that was an absolute joy. I'm so lucky in what I do, because I get to teach and I get to play at wonderful festivals up and down the country all the time. I also recently started a little project called the Ukulele Sessions, where I get to interview and have some of the best players in the world come on and do an exclusive set. We've had some fantastic players. We've had Sam Muir on there, we've had Kimo Hussey, and we've got some really great ones coming up. I hope that gives you an insight into what I do. If you're looking for books, then by all means go on my website, or these are distributed through Hal Leonard now, so you can get them there. If you're looking for lessons, I also teach over Skype, and I really hope to see some of you once we're back up and running with some festivals again. I'll tell you what, I'll play a little classical piece. This is a Ukulele piece from one of my books. This is taken from Classical Uke, and it's called Adagio.